Rasmus Hojlund saves a lucky Manchester United today with 2 first-half goals, a brace for the young man in the opening 7 minutes. But it was a rocky road indeed for Erik ten Hag's men. No real control for the vast majority of that first half. 14 minutes in, United were dominant. United looked as though it could have been 3-4-5-6. The first 14 minutes was how I thought the day would be. Luton would attack, Man United would exploit the space. Haaland, using good goal-scoring form, would capitalise. Then a little bit of fortune gave Luton a way back in, a deflected sort of shot come cross. They get themselves back in the game. Poor goalkeeping from Onana again. And Man United's confidence hit, hurt, and damaged. Yellow cards left, right, and centre. Luke Shaw, ridiculous yellow card from him, going off injured. Maguire continually stepping out and being late, being booked in the game and dragged off at half-time. Casemiro, absolute calamity of a performance from him today. Some of that is born out of the system, which I could not believe Ten Hag didn't adjust. 20 minutes in, 25 minutes in. He was far too isolated. His midfield partners were too far away from him. And Casemiro should have been sent off. He should have received the second yellow. The referee made a huge mistake, which has benefited Manchester United hugely today. It was an absolute second yellow card. United should have been down to 10 men. The end of the first half, how Man United was still in the league, I don't know. 7 shots in the opening 14 minutes, and then Luton had 10 without us replying. The second half, Luton still had lots of energy. They kept on coming at Man United. They kept on attacking. They were absolutely brilliant. They weren't peppering Man United in the same way they were in that first half. That is certainly for sure. They still had another sort of about 10 or 11 shots in the second half, but they weren't, in my opinion, of the same quality. Not until the dying moment of the game with a header from Barkley that hits the top of the crossbar, which could have been an equaliser, which nobody would have denied that Luton Town deserved from this game. And I want to give them credit because they've got great energy. They're very direct at times, but they also play nice football. They're an exceptionally well-drilled team at Kenilworth Road. And what Rob Edwards is doing there with the budget and the infrastructure is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Now, of course, I'm happy with the win. I feel a sense of relief right now. We close that gap on the Champions League positions. But as I've said in this last 5-6 game period where we haven't lost games, where we've been winning, I'm happy with the victories, but the performances are still a concern for me. The performances are still a massive issue because you go 2-0 up after 7 minutes. The earliest lead away from home Man United have ever had in the Premier League era. Rasmus Hojlund today becoming the youngest player in top-flight English football history to score 6 games consecutively. The youngest player to ever do it. You're in excellent goal-scoring form. You're 2-0 up. Control the game. Exploit the spaces. Remain cool, calm, and collected. But we just can't do it at Manchester United, whether that's at home or whether it's away. And although the win is hugely key, although the win should be celebrated, you cannot ignore the underlying performance in football. You cannot ignore the fact that Casemiro should have been sent off in this game. It isn't to say bad decision didn't go in the other way. How Mainoo got booked for one of the best tackles you'll see this season is absolutely beyond me. But they didn't score from that. It wasn't really a game-changing moment in that regard. But in the second half, look, we weren't peppered as much as we were in the sort of the 2/3 of the first half. But the lack of clinical edge, the nervousness that creeped into our team. Bruno's, look, he goes around the goalkeeper, a brilliant block from Lokonga, but I still think he should score. Garnacho, how he didn't bury that is beyond me. You had the shot from Bruno Fernandes. You had Rashford rounding the goalkeeper as well. We had so many opportunities to get the third, get the fourth, get the fifth, and they were absolute clear-cut big chances, you would call them, from a statistical standpoint. So it was a weird watch today. It was a frustrating watch. Although I'm buzzing that we got the win, because I've said all this season, I'm just about the wins. Because in my humble opinion, I think Ten Hag's going to be removed as manager, whether we make top four and win the FA Cup or not. I think they're going to remove him. That's my gut feeling. That's my belief. So I want the season to go as well as possible from a wins positional point of view and trophy situation. The performances, the only thing that would change my mind with Ten Hag would actually be the performances. And the fact that we're not controlling really any elements of these games recently. As you think about the last three matches, we've won them. We've won them because of Hojlund. And we've won them because of Mainoo. And Garnacho in some of those games as well. Garnacho was really poor today, by the way, I felt. Really, really poor, especially when it comes to the final ball or his finishing touch. But those three players have essentially saved Manchester United in the last 3 or 4 games. Without them becoming more clinical and putting the balls in the back of the net, we would have been in an absolute dire situation, because the performances were not particularly strong, as I say. Bruno Fernandes, everyone knows how much I've rated this guy. Today was an absolute shocker from the captain. There was no leadership. Yes, we want the managers to make tactical changes, but you can see there's holes in the middle. Casemiro's being exposed. Drop into it, orchestrate, lead. That is your job. It just gets ignored. And we did this against Aston Villa last week. We didn't get punished for it, but we didn't address it. And not being punished for the mistake doesn't take it away, because at some point you're going to come a cropper. So it's a really weird day for me today. I'm not focused on the performance from a season point of view. I'm focused on the performance because I will be asked a question today, and you probably will put it in the comment section. Well, Ten Hag's one again if you change your mind about him. The performances are going to change my mind, because there is long-term sustainability in performances, as we see with Liverpool, with Arsenal, of course, with Manchester City. But I'll celebrate the wins. I'll congratulate the wins. I do want to speak, before I bring my panel out, about the man of the moment, Rasmus Hojlund. Listen, I have to say, on this kid, I bought a lot of stock in him in the summer. I didn't know much about him before we purchased him, but it isn't hard to read scouting reports and to watch content and videos and footage of an individual. And I could see an excellent player who's got a good first touch, decent passer. Technically, as a footballer, he's good. But there was a predatory instinct to his game that you could see needed to be refined, but was there ready to blossom. And he has all the physicalities to be a Premier League player. Availability, strength, stamina, recovery, explosive speed as well. And he now becomes the youngest player in Premier League history to score in 6 consecutive games. That is 7 goals in his last 6 Premier League matches as well. And I'm really, really proud of this young man. With all the problems that the club has had, the mental strength and fortitude he has demonstrated has been nothing short of spectacular. His goal tally now sitting up there at 14 for the season is starting to, I said it would be 15, I felt, in all comps, is starting to look more and more respectable. But he has the performances coupled. And look at some of the names on that list. Look, Joe Willock doing it, you could argue, is a bit of an anomaly. But you look at, you see Erling Haaland there at 22 years of age. You see Lukaku, who in his younger days was a star. The man at the bottom, of course, Thierry Henry, many people's Premier League GOAT as well. To break that record is sensational. I hope he scores in the next game, because then it makes it 7 games on the bounce. And is that going to be broken? It's going to be a long time until it is, considering the amount of years people have been trying. So very proud of that young man. And I love both his goals today. I absolutely love them. The first, of course, there was a big mistake from Luton. A really bad touch stroke pass. I'm still not sure what it was. But one, he had to be alert. He had to anticipate. But there was a lot to do. He was too far out to shoot. He rounded the goalkeeper, though, kept his composure and tucked it away. And it was a very good goal. The second goal, though, when it first happened, Garnacho shoots, and you just think, oh, wow, he's been waiting to start scoring goals, and then he gets his first ever brace for the club in the Premier League, and it's hit his shoulder or his bum and gone in. And then when you watch the replay, he sees it coming, the way he moves his body and his chest to ensure it goes in. It was a real, I said it earlier, it's that predatory instinct that Rasmus Hojlund has. And I absolutely love that about this kid. If you look at all of his goals this season, go back and look at the Champions League, FA Cup, and the Premier League, there's such a great catalogue. There's such a great catalogue of goals. There's been some tap-ins. There's been some bullet headers. There's been some brilliant strikes. There's been some self-made goals. He's capitalized on mistakes. There's the instinctual goals like the second one today. Having that catalogue and that variety in goal scoring is a very, very good sign indeed. We had strikers before at the club when Hernandez arrived. I love Javier Hernandez. But he kind of scored the same type of goals. It was tap-ins on the line or one-on-ones. That was really good. But you were never going to see him score the types of goals and the variety of goals that Rasmus Hojlund does. Hojlund, for me, has the kind of goal-scoring variety. The only thing we haven't seen yet is many long-distance shots. It's the only thing that Rooney had that so far we haven't seen from Rasmus Hojlund, but he's got a really good mixture, can use both feet and his head as well. So I want to praise him today because the record that he has set for the Premier League, top flight English football, has existed for, a long, long time until Joe Willock broke it. He has then bettered it. And I'm just proud of him because there was so much banter, so much stick, so much, for me, unnecessary criticism of this man that was putting in solid performances. So well done to Rasmus Hojlund today. A lot of people are saying, Terry, why are you not saying that Luton were robbed? I've already addressed that earlier on in the video. Get here sooner. I've said Casemiro should have been sent off. The referee made a big mistake, in my opinion. I would be asking for a second yellow if it was the other way around. So I'm going to keep that consistency. A couple of super chats here before we bring the panel on. We've got Phil coming on. We've got man like Canadian Cam. Sunshine's backstage. I haven't seen Sonshine in a minute. I'm glad he's back here with us. We've got Rhino and we've got Aaron joining us. This here comes from Authority, who says, I'm tired of these players not finishing chances. We are going to blame the manager, but his players have to take responsibility. Well, this is where it's about layered thinking. You definitely criticize Bruno today. You criticize Rashford. You criticize Garnacho. They could have put the game to bed. You can also criticize them for some of their poor decision-making in game. But I think you can equally look at the manager and say, why are you picking Luke Shaw when he clearly wasn't fit? You can look at the manager and say, when they were exploiting the width and gaps between our midfield players, why are you not addressing this as the manager? Why are you not making those tactical changes in game? So you can look at both parties in that circumstance, and I think you should. Terry, certain man expect us to back this footy, crazy. As I say, it's vibes and results for this season, but if I'm going to change my mind about Ten Hag, the baseline performance needs to be better. It does need to be better. I understand, buy better players and everything else. But again, genuinely, how many of Luton's players would you buy at Man United? And they're better drilled than we are. They play a better brand of football. I've watched Leighton Orient play many times this year. Not a single player is probably good enough for the Premier League in their team. But they play better football than we do. England, Man United now remind me of England throughout the majority of my life, where typically speaking, we had better players in the teams we went up against, barring 2 or 3 nations around the world. But it didn't matter who we played. They always seemed to play better football than us. That's how I feel about Man United. Had Rasmus swapped bodies with Haaland, a brace? He hasn't swapped anything. He's his own player. The only comparison between the two players is because they were both blonde. That was all it really was. I think there are differences to the two of them. And I've said at the beginning of the summer, and I stand by this, I don't ever think Rasmus will be as good a finisher as Haaland. But overall, as a football player, I think he's got the ceiling to be better. Hold-up play, the approachability to games. I don't know how Haaland would fare if he was in a team where you're feeding on scraps. Even today, he scored 2 goals quickly. Then it was scraps. Haaland has created 3. It feels like he's created 3 or 4 real good chances every game. So, listen, we know that there's a player in here, but look, they're both brilliant in my opinion. Going to bring the panel out now to have their say on today's game. I still love more of your thoughts, more of your feelings. Please make sure the like button has been smashed if you have not done that so far. And make sure you are subscribing to the Terrace. But Phil's here, Cam, Sunshine's here, Rhino, and Aaron with me. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Terrace. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I wanted to jump to Rhino first of all. Started brilliantly. It became an absolute nail-biter, but United seem to be able to get themselves through.
Yeah, man. Listen, I said it. I can't remember what day I was on the show, and I said it's getting back into that uncomfortable car again, man. How is the journey going to be? How are we going to feel when we get to the destination? And the car was The car was worse. I don't trust this car no more. But at least if you take a positive from it, we got there in the end. And the 3 points is definitely very, very important in terms of mentality and moving forward in terms of the form that we're in. We haven't lost a game this year. So those are the positives I can take. But it's just that uncomfortable feeling. And when you're going 2-0 up, and I'm so happy Hojlund scored because I was saying, please break this record today. And he scores 2. And as you said, he's doing all different kinds of finishes. He's finishing outside the box. He's poaching goals. He's scoring headers. He's scoring goals where his movement is very important. He's using his instinct as well. So all of that's very good. But yeah, man, just the fact that we got the 3 points is good, but I'm just not comfortable, man. I just can't trust how long we can. This is not sustainable. You know, we are away to Luton Town, newly promoted Premier League team, and we're playing a counter-attack football. It's a bit crazy to me, man. But, you know, if I have to take the positives, we got the 3 points and we continue the run of form and see how it goes. And I just don't see how Ten Hag can start to gain control of these games. I don't know what he needs to do because it's just not working, you know. I don't want to start blaming the fact that Lisandro Martinez is out. Like, what is the issue? Why are we not controlling games? Why do we go 2-0 up and then we start to just lose that discipline and that resilience? Where is it going? What's happening? What is the issue? So Ten Hag needs to quickly figure that out. But yeah, we take the 3 points and we move, man. Take the 3 points and move.
Certainly. Phil, do you agree with that? It's one of those things. We win the game. We close the gap on those Champions League spaces. Everyone's impressed with Rasmus, but it was an absolute. I know they've given. Are we maybe being a bit unfair on ourselves? Luton have done this to a lot of teams at Kenilworth Road this season. Is it fair that United fans are as frustrated as we are?
I think the reason we're frustrated is because we started off so dominantly. We had the game in our hands, and we had so much confidence. We were playing really good football. We were seeing good football. Their backs were against the wall, and then they got that goal. You can't say it was lucky goal. They just didn't back down at all. And the reason that they're not backing down is when you look at the results for the against the top like sort of 6-7 teams this season. You know, there's always been like one goal in it. They beat Newcastle at home. They lost 3-2 to City, 4-3 to Arsenal. They drew 1-1 with Liverpool. So they've got some great results that they believe what they can do. So even when they concede a goal, they don't think, "Oh, that's it, game over. We're playing against United now." No matter what form we're in. So I think United's mentality is the biggest problem that I'm concerned of. Is when we concede that goal, straight away we go into panic mode, and we shouldn't. We go like even the corner at the end. What was the 88th minute, something like that, or 92nd minute, and Bruno trying to take a shot. It's like, come on, you're the captain. Be sensible. When you look at like the United of old, you take it into the corner, and Rooney and someone else would be frustrating the hell out of another team, sort of thing, just holding it in the corner, knowing that they ain't going to get it back and the game's done. But it's just that mentality. It's like, what we're doing, we've got like still got growing up to do, still got learning to do, sort of thing. So I think it's fair enough for United fans to be frustrated. But at the same time, we've got to be really grateful for a good result at a very tough away fixture.
Yeah, I agree. Cam, I mean, do you echo that? I mean, what did you make of United today?
I'm struggling with United fans right now, and everybody, because like I just sat on stream, I don't know, like Friday, listening. I was the only person on a 6-person panel who picked United to win the game. Only person. Everybody, Twitter, everybody, Luton. I have bookmarks. People saying Luton's going to beat us. Luton's going to do this. From United fans as well. We win the game, and it's still like, well, look, we should. Oh my God, terrible performance. All this. Everybody forgot about the fact that they were all saying, look at how they played all these other teams. Look at what happens when you go to Canada. Look at all these other picks. Then all of a sudden, we forget. We got the result. Yes. Did we have an issue? Getting there, of course, but so did other teams. If you ask Liverpool fans right now, would you trade the game that they had where Darwin missed every shot? They had 20-something shots, looked dominant, didn't score, drew the game. Would they trade that game for this game? And 1,000 out of 1,000 times, right? So I'm at a point where we know the performances aren't where they need to be. We all know this. We all have been talking about the team being a bit disjointed. There's a lot going on. We got changes happening in the back. Everything's happening, right? But as soon as we get the result that everybody didn't expect, we forget what we came in being worried about. So that's where my struggle is, because honestly, yeah, I'm happy with the win. Like there was moments where I'm sitting there stressed. I'm sipping my beer. I'm like, oh man, if we draw this game, it's going to be a rough weekend for me. But we didn't. So I can't come on here and be, I can't get upset about the performance, because we weren't supposed to go there and destroy them. I thought that wasn't supposed to be the thing. I agree with what Phil said. Actually, the problem is how we started, right? It does suck when you look like you're about to dominate in something we haven't had for so long. You look like you're going to take it to them, and then you don't effectively, and you have a game where it was a back and forth. I always hear this term, you guys use this term a lot, where it's like, oh, it's like a basketball game, and it bothers me because I'm like, it's never really like that. I'm a huge basketball fan. This was like a basketball game. It was crazy. It was actually a really fun game for me to watch. I was saying this, watching the small pitches, the swarming that happens around the ball at every moment is just, I want to actually go to a pitch like that. I want to go to England and watch a game and be that close and see it, because I was feeling it in my home, just like how excited, like it was crazy. But like for me, yes, there's a lot of negatives to take, but the positive is we just got to keep winning these games until everything gets sorted out. We just got to keep pushing, and we can't lose these games. We know we have a lot of tough fixtures coming up, and there's still a lot of maturity. My biggest problem with the game actually was when we were up and there was multiple attacks where you could tell we were feeling ourselves, and Garnacho's just taking like those random shots, and Rashford, and everybody's now just trying to get on the scoreboard after 20 minutes. And you're like, no, play football and pass it around but instead they got a little too confident, and look what happened. So that was my biggest problem with the game, was their overconfidence. After those first two goals, it was a little bit embarrassing, because you're like, a few of those shots were unnecessary. A few of those chances that you missed were unnecessary. You could have played better football. And I think that's on the players. I know everybody wants to come down on Erik ten Hag, but I think that's on the players too. And then the Casemiro thing, like we can talk about that after, but I think when I was watching the game and I was seeing how quickly players were accelerating past him, and I was seeing just again with this pitch, I was like, he was probably the wrong selection for this game off the bat. But it's hard for me to say start Scott over Casemiro ever. But yeah, he got it right by halftime, and we moved, man. We won the game, and I'm not going to sit here and not remember everybody taking the other team to win or get a draw. I'm going to be happy about that.
I think it's fair, Cam, if you've shared the screen with people and everyone's predicting you to lose, and then you win, and then they still try and play it down. I completely agree with that. A lot of people were telling me it's potential banana skin. I think my frustration is just, I'm happy that we've won. I really am. It was just, we were cruising. We were in a really good space, and it should have been a much more comfortable afternoon. And it wasn't a one-off, though. West Ham were better than us at home, but we beat them. Villa peppered us, but Onana kept us in the game. And I would just like, as much as people say, oh, you want the manager out, you're a disgrace. I want us to start playing better. I want us to start controlling more, because my only real objective is not to be right. It isn't to get Ten Hag out for the sake of it. It's for Man United to become a better football team. So I get your frustration massively. I do. Sonshine, long time no see, my friend. Obviously, a very important win for Man United today. We're closing in on Champions League positions, which could be important next year. We don't know who's going to be our manager, who we're going to buy in the summer, how good we're going to be. But I wanted to ask you more about Rasmus Hojlund, heavily criticized maybe 2 months ago. A lot of, I hate to say it, and that's going to trigger people, but a lot of Martial FC were coming for him, which I still to this day cannot understand. It was weird to me, but he is he's breaking records, he's scoring goals, and he's looking like a genuine United player of old.
You're on mute.
Oh, we can't hear you, bro. You're actually not muted, which is strange.
Oh.
We can't hear you, mate. It's very strange. I don't know why.
Come out and come back in, maybe.
Yeah, jump out and jump back in again. Yeah. I got Aaron with that question then about Rasmus Hojlund.
Yeah, no, I thought it was quality today. To be fair, he was on the end of the things that he needed to. Again, starved of a supply, and he scored when he needed to. 2-0 in 10 minutes. We thought we were going to be cruising, but unfortunately, we just couldn't keep control of the game, and that's been the case, like you said, for most of the season. Bruno today giving the ball away in silly situations, and then again, that's our skipper. when he was taken off, Hojlund, I was disappointed. He was our focal point up top. Yeah, he was holding the ball up. He was doing his job. And he's the only one in our team that can do that. And the fact that he was taken off so early, it really annoyed me by Ten Hag.
He was gassed, though. He was gassed.
I know, but when he's doing his job, he's just got to keep going. There was, 10 minutes to go when he was taken off?
No, but I think he got taken off because he had a
understand it.
moment when he got the ball nicked off him in his head. Like, you could just see he was just like, everything was gone. And I think that's when, I don't think it was anything other than he was so gassed.
I know. But then you've got to get through those 90 minutes, haven't you? Away at Kenilworth Road, it's not easy. And the fact that he was holding up the ball so well, he's just got to stay on. He's got to keep fighting.
Wow.
I can't
showing up the
I can't
midfield
knock
as
him
well,
for that,
though, wasn't it? Strengthening the midfield, putting a little bit of energy back into the game with Amrabat, who broke the game up, and he did make some decisive tackles that were quite important. So it's one of those where you go, if they'd have conceded and we'd have not brought him on and left Hojlund on, he was clearly absolutely wrecked. Garnacho was absolutely destroyed. He only had one more sub left to make. He had to do something. And I think, if we'd have conceded and not made the change, it'd have all been like, oh, Ten Hag should have brought somebody on. He was wrecked, sort of thing. So it's one of them where you can't win, but at the end of the day, we got the point. So you have to say it's the right decision.
Yeah, I guess so. We just need that control in the game. And the only person that looked composed was Mainoo. Throughout the entire 90, the whole midfield.
I agree.
Wasteful,
it's the balance out there. Can we hear you now, Sonshine?
I'm unsure. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go, my friend.
Sorry. Before you jump on, I'm gonna have to jump off. It's a quick one for me today, but
all right, cheers, mate. I appreciate it. Say hello to your dog for me as well. I can hear your dog in the background. Take care, my G.
Thank you.
Take care, bro.
Cool, man. I was just saying that it's nice to see you again, Terry, man. Thanks for having me back on the Terry.
Never a problem, my bro.
A pleasure, man. But yeah, I think was it Hojlund you were talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest. When people on Twitter were going on at Hojlund, he should be playing down the wing, he should be doing this. I'll be honest. I didn't normally. I pay attention and put my little 2 pence into things, but I thought this time I'm just gonna leave it, man, because the reality of the situation is I'm seeing all the right things from him off the ball. When he was in the striker position, he just wasn't being fed enough at times when he should have been, and of course, due to selfishness or due to the lack of the pass not being there in the right situation for him, shall we say, he wasn't able to get the service that he needed. Didn't mean he was doing anything wrong. So I just think people overcomplicated the situation for what it was without realizing that no, he was gonna get his goals because he's doing everything right. The position off the ball, running and charging down the space, his final balls, tap-ins. He was just waiting for that goal. And
Najee, just to even add on to that, just that adjustment period he needed from the other league he was into this.
Yeah, of
he
course.
had to adjust to the pace as well. Yeah,
I think people forget, Terry. Yeah. I mean, I think we had a conversation about it prior a while back when we got him, and I said Hojlund should have been our second striker to another forward. I remember saying to you guys we should have had 2 clinical forwards before anything because we lack goals. And Hojlund's had to come in here as a youth and be the main striker. And now everyone's going to put all that pressure on him. That's something, again, I don't rate Ten Hag for. I think he prioritised wrong, but I'm not going to go over that old chestnut again. It's a simple fact now for me. We needed more over that. Now, Hojlund's had to step into that role. And the pressure from United fans has had to be tenfold. It's had to be tenfold on him. And he's had to deal with that. Now, yes, he's got the mentality for it. So cool, well done, he stepped up to the plate. But he's just maintained his game for what I've seen since he's first put that jersey on. He just hasn't bagged. And when he started bagging, he's got the confidence. And now look at it, it's like, well, he can be our first striker. So with all due respect, Ten Hag's got it right with that signing. As much as I dislike that, because for me, I still think we need 2 clinical forwards in either the wide areas or up front. However, different conversation. He's got it right. He's got it right by Hojlund.
I think you're right. Do you know what I think it is, though? That the manager's has identified a star here. There's no doubt. I think there's a real player in him. On top of that, though, I do think we needed a more experienced striker as well. But that's where I've got to praise the player, because he has got his head down, worked hard, stayed level-headed, and it's paying off dividends now. It's paying off dividends, and he's starting to. If he'd have come in and started like this, we would have gone, we don't need another striker. And he's turning into that player quickly. And what I like about it, he's looked at the situation and gone, well, maybe we do need somebody who's a bit more longer in the tooth than me. But instead of crying about it or worrying about it or going, oh, they're going to bring in some competition, what about my career path? He's gone, well, I'm just going to work hard, start scoring the
Yeah.
goals, and deliver. And I love that attitude. I love that behavior from him. It's inspiring in many ways. I got a lot of time for this kid. And again, look, we know we're on a journey now, United, with our new owners, and he's whether Ten Hag stays or not, this kid's a star for us for the future. I don't know about you, Phil. You've obviously you've been watching United about the same sort of time as me. This looks like the kind of player that a Fergie would have signed back in the day.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he's got a bit of strength in him. He holds the ball up, as has already been said on the show several times. I think he brings up, different people have said already tonight, he's brought different types of goals. He's getting headers. He's strong. He's holding the ball up. He's spinning on the ball. He's putting it into the bottom corner. He's one of my favourite goals is that one for Wolves where he's just lying under the player celebrating sort of thing. It's just quality. It's showing his desire to get in the box and make those movements. And even before he was scoring, before he did start scoring, everyone was on his back. You look back at the games, he was getting shots on target, and they weren't weak shots. There was some great goalkeeper saves as well, where you're just thinking, oh, come on, it's going to come. You could see it coming. Everyone was like waxing lyrical about him in that when he came on with about 20 minutes ago against Arsenal. And everyone was like, yeah, we've got a striker. We've got someone who's going to change our game, absolutely. And I take on board what you're saying about him being a second striker, but at the end of the day, if you believe in someone, how long have we been crying out about other teams finding these star players for, all right, it wasn't cheap, but not 120 million or whatever sort of thing, not the finished article. Maybe now we've finally got one of our own. Everyone, he's already being linked to Real Madrid and stuff. It's obviously paper talk, but at the end of the day, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to find these gems. Like you mentioned Javier Hernandez before. What was he, 20 million or something like that? But the goals he got us, this hoping.
I think he was about 10.3 million.
Yeah.
I remember that deal.
Well, there you go. So
yeah.
That's what we're trying to do. We need to build on this now. We've got him. We've spent our money on him. And we've got this new team in the board sort of thing who are going to help us spend wisely and look at players who are out in the market before, not like the Osimhen 140 million, who everybody knows is a great player. We need to find those gems who are out there again and bring them into the team and just develop ourselves sensibly. We're not being accused of FFP like many other teams are, and I'm all for that. Anthony was the wrong decision, we know that, but we also know what he brought to Ajax and that connection he had with Ten Hag, and everyone was like waxing lyrical about Anthony before he came. Yes, we've got him, we've won him, sort of thing. It's fantastic. It's not worked out for him in the Premier League. It's fast. It's a tougher game. He's not got as much time on the ball, sort of thing. He's learning that the hard way, and that's the 80 million that we lost. That was the big investment that went the wrong way for me. If
we went to sell Hojlund tomorrow, how much do you guys think he would go for? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think when you look at it, and I'm not an Eric Ten Hag is one of the first time I don't like to sit on the fence. I typically pick a side on whether I'm going to stick with somebody or whatever. I'm on the fence with Eric Ten Hag, and it's the only time I really have been when it comes to a manager at this point in their career. And when I look at it, it's like Martinez, Hojlund, Casemiro. Unfortunately, we still have to say successful signings, all three. But then he has Antony, Mount, and Onana, like we don't know yet, right? Like, so it's yes,
it's nah, bro. It's nah.
All right. So if you go 50% at this point,
Onana's a weird one.
Out of those three guys, right? You think about it, and you think about what's going on with Garnacho, you think about what's going on with Mainoo. So those two, it's like people have been going off about how terrible his talent ID has been and all this other stuff. And I'm like, it's really on pace. I get it. The performances aren't great. Now, I'm not going to say they are, but if you look at it for the strength of it, is he's hitting at about a 50% hit rate. You probably want better than that. But I think realistically, coming into the team we had, having a team that was sold, but then never sold for the whole year, all the stuff he's gone through, I'm still one of those people who it's like, if and only if, like if we win the FA Cup or go to the FA Cup final and put up a fight and we finish top four, and I know Terry doesn't agree with this, it's like it's hard to get rid of him. I'm not saying I will be mad if they do. I'm saying it's hard because I look over at Bayern Munich and I see what's happening with Tuchel losing more games than Nagelsmann did in way less time. You look at what happened with Chelsea, Pochettino's supposed to save everything. You never know with managers, right? So you kind of have to just, if he wins an FA Cup and a League Cup in his first 2 years, what? Like, and then we're gonna you get rid of him. It's really tough unless there is somebody out there that Ineos and those guys identify and they say, right, that's the man. He's 100% who we want. He's going to be there for a time. Like, you cannot then turn around and get rid of that guy. So I struggle with the get rid of him at all costs, because like that's what a lot of people are saying, and I struggle with that. I do think there's room for saying he may earn himself some more time, just like we allow players to earn themselves more time. Like we talk about Scott McTominay. I'd keep him as a squad player. Sorry, like on the strength of what I see, like you can't just say get rid of a guy because of past performances when he's proven to you he can do something for the team. Like that's just.
There's
I
also
want
the
to say
side.
something that. I want to say, yeah, after.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say something after. Yeah.
Go on,
No,
Steve.
I was
No,
just-
go on. Yeah.
I was just gonna say about McTominay, bro. You can 100% get rid of McTominay. What year was it in the 90s where Sir Alex got rid of Konchesky? He got rid of Inns.
That was
he got
in
rid
like
of
the summer of '95. I think that was. I think it was '95.
You
Might
guys
have been.
You guys have
Oh,
gotten
no, it might be '96 actually. 96, '97 season may have been. I have to look. I don't know.
around there, right?
Yeah.
Point still stands. You guys have gotten rid of good players before. I think Scott, I respectfully, Scott, I don't
Yeah.
think at the level of Konchesky, Inns, Roy Keane, you've gotten rid of. You've sold Van Nistelrooy when there was still a good player there. So, yeah,
The issue is though. The issue is with that. Sorry, Rhino.
I know
just
you're
quickly.
not that united,
Yeah,
but
no
I'm
worries.
just saying historically.
Yeah, no, it's okay to get rid of players, but I think because where the club were at that time, it wasn't as detrimental to go and get rid of Beckham, Keane, Van Nistelrooy because we know we've replaced them. We had the foundation behind us to go. You know what? Yes,
True.
the quality is a loss, but we know we're going to replace. And Fergie every single time managed to get it right. He still managed to win championships. I remember when we got rid of Ronaldo, whole of the fan base and your rival fans were like, "Oh, you'll never win the league again." Man went and won it a couple more times. Do you know what I mean? And this what I'm trying to say. Like, if you've got the right backing behind, don't get me wrong. By the way, the 100% come with the signings and stuff. Ten Hag's on a 50-50. I'm not saying he's been absolutely outstanding, but this is why I say Manchester United is an anomaly, and Terry will understand this. Because of how we're run, we are an anomaly. And behind the scenes, you need people to say, Ten Hag, this can't run. When Ten Hag was at Ajax, people forget that him and Overmars had to agree on signing. So if Ten Hag wanted a signing and Overmars said no, they never got the player. They both mutually had to agree. We don't have that at United. And yes, he's come into Manchester United. He's made some signings. It's not really worked out for whether they've been injured, not been there, or they've just had not as good season as they have previous. It doesn't matter the reason. They've just not been good enough, some of them, right? That is an issue because in this day and age, you can't compete against, say you want to be against City and Liverpool and not have a number 2 behind you to say, you know what, that sounded real mad. Every time, man, crazy. Anyway, keeping it moving. You just can't have someone. You can't have no one behind you backing it. You can't. Like Klopp in the Mo Salah situation, prime example. No manager can do what Fergie did now and come and run a club, especially at Manchester United, how we're run. So,
that element I think is key. Rhino, on Ten Hag saving himself. You were going to jump in and say something on that.
Yeah, no, I definitely see where Cam is coming from. Yeah, but do you know what it is for me? When you look at the kind of ethos that people like Omar Barada have, like people like Dan Ashworth and what's that, Brailsford, these guys, I feel like as much as results are important, I think to these guys, they care about performances as well and sustainability. I think it's very important. I can actually see that even if Ten Hag was to maybe win an FA Cup, if they did find the right person to replace him, I think they wouldn't have no like concern in doing it, because I think they definitely, is very important to them how you win. They like to see good performances. So that's what I just wanted to say in regards to that. And also what Cam said earlier, sorry, quickly, in regards to just Man United fans and the mentality and stuff. My thing is, obviously I predicted the Manchester United win. I said probably 2-1 or 3-2. We're going to go up and then we're probably going to have a shaky win and whatever. But my thing is just the whole sustainability of performances moving forward, because if I've been told that when our players come back in, we're going to start to see changes and we're not seeing any increments, that's what's my concern. So I think it's more of a concern and a worry than anything. What
you said there about Ineos, I agree. I think they will look at this. I think he could make the top 4 and win the FA Cup and still lose his job. I believe they will look at it and say, I do. I think they could. And
I think so too, by the way. I think so too.
And moving forward as a football club, I think that's absolutely acceptable, as long as there is. I was having this conversation. I was having this conversation with myself, but I was making content. That's why I was talking to myself. I wasn't talking into the mirror at home about. Because I saw League. I reacted to League Gunner today and had a little bit of fun with it when he was talking about. Now I see the process. And my view is, well, the process has always been there, but what you're seeing in the last few games, you're never going to get that every single week. Doesn't mean the process isn't there. Equally, there's people that follow the process who never want to see the manager sacked. And I look at both those groups of people and say, well, you can all back the process, because sacking the manager shouldn't end the process. It's just it's a continual process. That's all it is. Football is
an employee in charge of that process.
Exactly. And then what you do is once a manager gets you as far as he can take you, somebody else comes in to run the project or the process or continue the process. It really shouldn't be this notion of, but if we get rid of him, it all falls apart. Or even, what I've seen a lot of Arteta outers do, we've got to get rid of him, rip it all out and start again. No, we've got to move away from this idea of starting all over again. I think when we look to hire a new manager, if we do, we need someone that can look at this squad and go, no, there's a lot in there I can do with. I don't want a manager that says we need 23 new players, because I just think that we've got to get this right. So listen, it's results only for me at the moment. We will talk about the performances from a Ten Hag point of view. Some super chats here I want to go to, gents. This says, obviously, Thomas Tuchel is very, very close, if not already having been sacked after losing 3-2. Well, yeah, I mean, very, very close to being sacked. Lost 3-2 today. They're now 8 points behind Bayer Leverkusen. And listen, sacking him now, listen, again, they are, generally speaking, a well-run club. And they know that this is what I say, sometimes when you go, we always hope managers turn it around. You could argue that even Arteta hasn't done it yet because they haven't won a major trophy since the real bad times. But how many managers actually turn it around from Tuchel's position? How many managers have you seen manage a club like Man United with where we are right now with performances and league position and then become one of the best teams in the world? Like, generally, that's why when everyone's fighting for their manager, I think, where's the precedent for this? Where's the precedent?
Terry, at these big clubs, if you're teetering on the edge, there's a reason why you are, and there's the 0.0001% of guys that are somehow able to recover somehow. Maybe Fergie, but United were at a way different. That was mid 80s, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't run too differently. It's just that managers of Fergie's era, managers of that from that era were trained to manage the clubs, which meant be the sporting director. Yeah. Managers now are not trained to be managers; they're trained to be head coaches. So it's a fundamentally different job that they have. It's a bit like now, like in my old industry. So loads of people are bank managers. They manage the branch of a bank, but that isn't the job that the old-fashioned bank managers used to do. They're not the same jobs by any capacity. They changed sometime in the 90s. Terry, do you think your club's back now? So Jim is here. Well, it isn't back until we're challenging for those Prems and Champions Leagues. But I like a lot of what we're doing off the stadium. Yeah, absolutely. Darwin Núñez, first season, 9 goals, 3 assists, 72 million as well. Rasmus Hojlund, 63 million pounds. He was 74 million euros. So that's not. I don't know. I think Darwin's was about the same. To be fair, I think it was euros we're talking here. And this year about Kobe Mainoo, it says, I'm convinced Mainoo is that good. He will never have a bad game. I want to see Man United scout lower leagues for gems and do better in that department. Phil, on Mainoo again today. Again, the only real composed player in the midfield or defense. Actually, I'm a liar, actually, barring Johnny Evans, who I actually thought came on and was fantastic. Another really good day for young Mainoo.
Yeah, I think Mainoo, he's absolutely fantastic. You can't say he's the finished article because he's a kid at the end of the day, but he's a kid with a lot of big maturity on his shoulder. He brings a lot to the game, composure. In moments where you're thinking, I think I've seen this comparison before, a little bit Pogba-esque in the way he kind of holds the ball up and wants to kind of stretch, have a look around and make that pass, but does it better than Pogba in some ways, in many ways, sort of thing. I know that Pogba's got his issues, but with Mainoo, I think when you look at what he's doing and the way he brings it to the game, and that tackle was absolutely immense. There's no way it wasn't a foul and it wasn't a yellow card. It was injustice. And if they'd have scored from it, it would have been even worse. But that sort of level of composure and effort, he doesn't seem to run out of energy either. He's that you could see in that game, they'd run the socks off every player. Garnacho and Hojlund and Rashford as well. And many of those players were absolutely wrecked, but he just kept going. And you're just thinking, where is this lad getting the energy from? It looks like he's built like nothing. So he's got it right at the moment. He must be living well, learning well. Do you know what I mean? And he's got. I know that Casemiro is of the older generation, but he must be learning a lot from him and things like that in terms of guidance. But he's actually playing better than him. You know, he's just absolutely fantastic. Without him at the moment, he is. I think we said it when I was on your show the other week, Terry. I think that he is definitely at the moment player of the season for me. And no matter how many goals Hojlund scores, without his composure in the midfield and for such a young player in his first breakthrough season. And let's not take that away from Ten Hag as well. He's allowed this opportunity to come through.
Yeah.
Well, he wanted him early, remember? The injury.
Yeah, before he got injured,
The defender, Willie Kumbwala, quality when we saw him as well. This is all through Ten Hag. So this swings it back the other way for me a little bit in that Ten Hag argument of we always want a manager who's going to give youth a chance. Well, this is what we're seeing. And Forson was on the bench again today as well.
Yeah, the thing is, it's funny you said, I wonder where he gets that energy from. I don't know if you remember what you were like when you were 19, but that's where he gets that energy from, that youth, right? And I think that's the important part of having a mixture of youth. And it's just, I think with him and Hojlund, when you look at our youngsters, they're the only two I would say, like Garnacho's good, and I think he will be good. I don't know if he's going to be like great. He could be, he's got time, but like I think between Hojlund, and I've criticized Hojlund, and I'll say I've criticized Hojlund. I wasn't one of those people trashing him and calling him a wrestler, doing any of that nonsense. But I said I wanted to see more striker's instincts, more near post runs. I wanted to see a bit more like that, and it's coming, right? And you're seeing it because he has all the qualities to be one of the best. And I think Mainoo is showing the exact same thing, which is real nice to see when you have at least two kids in your squad right now that you can say those two could be here for a decade, and we would be happy, and we'd be real happy. And I think that's something to keep in mind with the manager. But it's for me, when you start looking around the league and you start looking around like how you need to build a team, you've got to look at your team right now. And Terry said something about a manager coming in, looking at her squad and being like, I can work with this. I'm cool with that. But for me, the next manager that comes in, if we do get a new manager, I literally want it to be a manager, unless he completely capitulates. It's like, you've got 3-4 years to figure this out, because it's such a big job. And we're just not seeing, unless like you tell me it's like Simeone's coming in next year, then I'm like, okay, well, cool. There's a guy who's done it. But if we pick an unknown manager, if we take somebody because they've identified them,
I agree.
I'm cool with it. Like they got it.
And again, Hojlund was unknown.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I don't want to sack Ten Hag and bring another manager in where there is hundreds and hundreds of question marks over him, because you could be back in the same position. I'm actually falling more and more in love with the idea of Alonso, and that's one way they play football, and secondly, I look at it as an omen. But it's not even that. I look at it as a Man United omen. The last time we hired a Liverpool legend to manage our football club, we got Samat Busby. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Samat, but they say sometimes history repeats itself, right? And I'm just looking at it from a very romantic perspective, I would say. Terry,
Liverpool, though?
Yeah, he's going to
He's getting Liverpool. Yeah, I know.
He's 100,000%.
Terry, do you think Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos will do with Martin Edwards when Fergie was on the verge of being sacked in 1990, but he believed in Fergie? Look, it depends on who you listen to, but I've read books, articles, and listened to interviews over the last 30 plus years, and everyone who was in the hierarchy of Man United at that point at the time denied that he was close to being sacked, and since has denied. And that's because they were doing so much work behind the scenes to fix problems, from the drinking culture, developing a youth system, which is completely rotted at Manchester United. It was more media talk back then than there was a serious idea of the club falling apart. The difference is this: Fergie was part of the actual rebuild. My issue more with Ten Hag is that he has had 18 months towards 2 years with the horrible sludge and toxic crap that came before it, which is why I think he's tarnished, like a lot of these players as well. And that's why I kind of want a big removal of everybody, new, fresh people in with the new regime to genuinely start a rebuild. It isn't even personal for me when it comes to him. Manager during Fergie's era also got more time to get their players and implement their style. Yeah, some did, some didn't. I mean, there's still lots of people that got sacked very, very quickly. Go and speak to Arsenal fans between George Graham and and Wenger as an example. So lots of managers still being sacked. My bad, Terry. 72 million, well spent. It was well spent. If United win the FA Cup and come in the top 4, do you consider this a successful season or a step backwards from last year? What are you saying about that one, Rhino?
Oh, it's hard to say, man. FA Cup and top 4. I guess the FA Cup is obviously a better cup than the Carabao. Top 4. I think it more matters the manner as well. How confident we get into the top 4. I think that will be the kind of deal breaker for me. And if we do consider we have better performances to get there, I guess it's probably it's a difficult one, man. It's hard to answer that question, man. Possibly, man. Possibly not a step back. Do you think it's still a step back? I'm not sure. Yeah,
no, I'm saying it's success.
100%.
Yeah. I think it's better, isn't it? Yeah.
I guess shit.
Yeah, FA Cup's definitely better. So in that aspect, yeah.
It's the fact that you've recovered well. Because at one point, some people were thinking, myself included,
not
I'm like,
top 4.
Are they gonna get Europe? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and
right
now, you guys might go and win the FA Cup because I think Man City. They might want to focus.
I think you've got, again, my view on it is there is success within it, but the fact that we haven't progressed closer towards winning the league title, there's still an element of failure within it as well.
Yes.
For me, that's where we've got to aim to get to.
I never understood how do we see ourselves progressing when everything's so inconsistent behind the scene? I don't understand.
Yeah, I didn't expect you guys to get closer to the league
this
title.
season. That first season was a massive overachiever. We've all sat here and agree with that. So the second season, I'm not looking to see a level of progression. I'm looking for sustainability. Can we do next to what we did the first season? Even if we've got injuries, even if we have to change our style of play, even if our profiles drop off, even if he makes mistakes and doesn't get it right, can he still find a way to sustain what we did from the first season? This is why I say, at Manchester United, we're an anomaly. If we had everything running smoothly, I'm sitting here going, 2 seasons, bro, sort it out. Do you think? Because you've got nothing there's nothing there. There's no other factors, no other intangibles that you can look at and go, well, you didn't get back. Right now, any manager that comes into this Man United, as you know, Terry, over the past 10 years, there's always got, even if those managers achieve their best and what they could do, it still won't be good enough to achieve the competition because you need all the other factors. So when Manchester United managers fail or struggle or look like they're falling off, it looks like it's horrendous. When they're achieving their best, it doesn't look as good because behind the scenes, we're not there. Any manager that has a proper structure behind it, like Ineos, whatever they want to do, can thrive beyond their actual ability. So I just don't. I think top 4 is enough over the space of 2 seasons. No matter how he's got there, first 2 seasons, top 4. You've had a trophy in those seasons. That's enough to go, okay, your 3rd season is your last season to go and get your performance right now. Now you've got the backing. Now you've got your profiles. Now you know what you want to do. 3rd season, we should be having these types of conversations.
No, I understand why. Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, mate. I do. Before we go to some more super chats, I want to ask you all, like, Bruno Fernandes is trending, and I understand why. I personally thought it was a shocker from him today, and I think it was Phil that brought it up. A few minutes to go, you get a corner, hold on to possession, bring it to the corner, it goes for glory. They have 2 genuine chances from that point to score, but there's so many moments today where he made the wrong decision, the bad pass, he had the opportunity to score. We need better leadership on the pitch than what we saw today, surely, gents.
Yeah,
I want to hear from Najee. I really, because Najee's made certain comments. I want to hear from you, Najee. I don't know if you want me to.
I know what you're talking about, right?
I thought you had an underwhelming performance today, personally. I mean, like I said, I'm not one. I grew up the same year as most of you lot. I saw, and I see this every time. I saw Ronaldinho make misplaced passes. It never got on my nerves. I seen Guti. Let me finish, because you're gonna get triggered off the name and miss the message.
And also to add to context, people, if you got, no, I want to add to the explain why. He basically compared Bruno to KDB and said that Bruno, he thinks KDB. So go on, Najee. Let me add the context.
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. All I'm saying to you
is relevant.
It's definitely right.
It used to carry on.
Sorry, go ahead.
All I'm saying to you is, to me, I don't get triggered off misplaced passes. I just don't, never have, because for me, creative players are meant to do that. So That's ingrained into me. So I don't look at it and go, oh my God, bad place pass. I look at, was the option on and was it the right decision? Whether you make it or not, cool, safe. But to me, if an option's on, then you make it. About 3 or 4 passes today, I was like, mate, what are you doing? Cool. But then on the other hand, I saw the intricate passes, the link-up play, even towards the end when Rashford played through, was it Garnacho, to could have squared it across to McTominay. All those small intricate passes happened as well. So it was an overall, I think he's had a 6 out of 10 game. I think when he's sitting back a lot more, in my opinion, again, defensively, I thought did his job again. Never gets spoken about because it's not highlighted. It's not important. But for me, as an overall game, 6 out of 10 today, which was underwhelming. What he did in the corner was absolutely shocking. I've literally screaming, hold the ball, hold the ball, hold the ball, and he goes and takes a shot. What are you doing? And I could have called him all names under the sun. Don't get me wrong, I've got no issue criticizing the man, but I'm just looking at the overall game. I think because we've got it installed in our heads that there's only certain features and factors that you look at in a player, that's all we focus on. Me personally, I'll never make those judgments or based off small little ideals. I look at the whole entire thing, the whole entire game. Today, I had a 6 out of 10. I didn't think he was world class, didn't think he was great, but I'm not going to sit here and act like he was a 1 out of 10 because he did a lot of things right in that game at the same time, even when we broke on the counter. And I think when you play Luton, you can go look at many Luton games at home. Only way to score past them is based on counter because the way they press and the way they build up, their back three is immense in terms of keeping the ball. It's difficult to do that. And we broke the lines many a time. Bruno was involved in most of them. So on the cusp of balance, I think 6 out of 10 ain't a bad game. But like I said, people have got this conceived idea that he ain't good enough and we should only focus on all the shit that he's done. I'm just looking at the overall game going, not amazing, but today, 6 out of 10, I'm cool with that.
Najee, do you want an upgrade in that position, though? Because if Newcastle had a player that was doing these 6 out of 10s all the time, Longstaff, essentially, Sean Longstaff, let's just say, because I think he's a very average player. I know Bruno has some exceptional moments here and there, and the misplaced pass, I get that. But is there a difference between a misplaced pass and a bad pass and an underperforming player versus a player that you want to upgrade on? A Xavi Simons, for me, is an upgrade.
So here's the thing. These types of players have been said to me many a times, and I think this is just my observation.
Yeah,
I think we value aesthetically pleasing players who look better on the ball. I've always said Bruno Fernandes is an ugly footballer. So when he makes a bad pass, it looks horrible. Absolutely horrible. But when I start with and I bring this up every single time, this is not to bear in mind, just to plant the seed. I'm not comparing KDB with this statement. But when KDB was losing the ball 24/7 and he had the most losses in the Premier League, it was never mentioned at all. Not to the same level. And I had to ask my question and go, well, why is that? I think that's a fair question to ask. Mm-hmm. And again, it's because he's technically looking like he knows what he's trying to do, even if he messes up. So when you've got aesthetically pleasing ballers, when you've got players who are technically looking better, I think Bruno isn't a very good technician. And I think that's where he gets misconceived. But I think he's got the intelligence and he's got the ability to be able to pull off the passes. And the stats don't lie about that. And that's regardless of what system he's in, what profiles he's got around him. He's been the only player in Manchester United since we brought him in who's been able to be consistent in what he does. Now, does he have areas of his game that he needs to improve? Of course. Is he an ugly footballer? Of course. But when I'm looking at his overall game, I think you need to buy 2 players to replace what he does, because defensively, there's no way KDB comes into this Man United team and you can tell me he can positionally hold himself defensively, win the ball back the amount of times he does, put that work rate in, which has a massive benefit in terms of how we score goals and get the ball winning higher up the pitch. All these factors are important to me personally. So I will never sit here and just highlight only part of his game and make that judgment of his whole game.
Don't you think people highlight? Oh, sorry, Rhino. Go on.
Go on, Rhino.
Najee, listen, look, I fully understand where you're coming from, yeah? And I used to think like this before. I was supporting Bruno the same way I was supporting Ten Hag to a point, and then I stopped. Look, I think if you use the factor of overall game, that flaws your point, because KDB's overall game is better. If you want to pick, I think you are actually highlighting individual things by saying Bruno can defend. Because as a 10, what do you care about? It's like Anthony. Anthony can defend as well.
He's not playing as a 10.
No, I'm just trying to say. No, but I'm just saying Bruno's best attributes is when he's playing higher up the pitch. Yeah. So if we compare 2 players, that's the attributes we're going to compare.
So from a creative standpoint, then he's doing well. He's done well.
But as a forward-thinking player, as a player that you need the captain as well, somebody that you rely to be the engine of the team, his overall game is not good enough. It's not good enough. I feel like KDB.
So what is it you say about the 10? What is it a 10 needs to do as an overall that Bruno isn't doing?
And even just to add on to what you said about aesthetically pleasing, Varane's not aesthetically pleasing, but he's still a good defender. He still passes the ball very well. So I don't judge people. I don't judge. No, but I feel like overall, if you look at the way the success rate to the waist weight is night and day.
That's what I'm trying to say. The success rate is proven by numbers and facts. So what I see with the eyes can be proven with the numbers on the pitch, and that's regardless of overall season. So what I'm saying, there is a misconception that he isn't doing his job, and I want to understand why that misconception is there. Because if I can see something with my eyes and I can prove it statistically, then is my judgment off, or is somebody else's judgment off? And until someone can show me that, I'm open to seeing it, but I ain't seen it yet.
I just think y'all can do better. That's all it is.
Don't get me wrong.
Do you know what it is for me?
If you want to sit
composure.
here and say,
I think it's composure. Like if you look at people if you look at Mainoo and you look at Hojlund, they have a sense of composure. And I feel like somebody that's the captain of the team running in the middle of the pitch, you need to compose your team. You need to be able to read. You can't play against Man City, Luton, Brighton, and let's say Brentford the same way. Let me finish. I feel like Bruno doesn't read the game and identify the tempo. He doesn't have any gears. He doesn't develop. He plays in one gear every single game, no matter what team, no matter what.
I think that's such a lazy statement when you look at that. When you look at what we saw the game against Aston Villa, and everyone. And literally, I put the tweet out. And I said to them, I said, okay, Bruno, keep the ball simple. Keeps it simple. Oh, Bruno went missing. I said, wait there. Are you watching this? The amount of times he had the opportunity to hoof the ball. He's looked left and right and played a simple ball. People have the misconception in there. Well, not misconception. They have this idea that they've stuck with, and every time they see him do it, that's what they're going to pinpoint. They're not looking for him to improve on the things.
All right, let me ask you one question, AJ.
Wait there.
I'm going to ask you one question.
So when he actually keeps it simple, it's he's gone missing. When he actually sprays the ball left and right, even today in the midfield on the counter attack, he was surrounded by 2 or 3 men. Literally held up the ball, looked for a pass, didn't make that pass, played it through the guy's legs, kept it simple, recycled the ball. Those are the things people wanted to see, but they aren't ready to give the credit when it happens. Why? Because they've got this idea that that's all he ever does, and if they give him credit to that, then they look stupid because they're like, "Raw, he's improved." I'll give you a fair example, Rhino. I've criticized Maguire how many times? Hella times. But when he proves me wrong, I'll sit there. You'll see my tweets and go, "Fair play, Maguire," because I want him to see the improvements. And if he improves, it improves my team. Because it's not based off bias. I'm not trying to, like Terry said, I'm not trying to be right. I just want to see these players.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question? Okay, let me ask you this question. You identified his defensive attributes and you said he's very good defensively. Have you noticed, have you seen how many free kicks? There was a game where he conceded free kicks that we actually conceded goals from. That you can't do that as our captain. That's very, that's detrimental, and I feel like it's crucial moments like that where, as a captain of this team, you can't do things like that.
Well,
and I appreciate that.
I think this argument will be
to you. I'd say, why is a man running 70 yards to make that tackle at the edge of the box where the other players there? I'd ask you that question.
Just in the interest of time, guys, I want to say that for me, before we just do the rest of these super chats, I think Bruno is now suffering like a lot of players have suffered in the last decade, though. I don't necessarily know if he would have been a Ten Hag signing if Ten Hag had a complete blank canvas and he was going to sign people. For me, Bruno, when he's playing off the striker, that is when he's at his absolute best. It's where he played under Oli. Bruno hasn't been as good for Man United since Ronaldo joined, and then he was dropped that little bit deeper. And then under this system, he still had good games and good moments, but this is like a lot of people. You have to use them at what they're best at. What we've done at Man United is, if we had KDB, we'd have tried to turn him into a DM. And this is the kind of stuff we do all the time at Man United. We find someone who's very good at a particular thing, and instead of making them amazing at it, we try and turn them into a Swiss Army knife where they're capable of doing multiple things. And that's why I'm at a point with Bruno where I think, unless the new manager looks at it and says, I want to play you off the striker and then have a really controlled midfield and even inside forwards. I think we need to have inside forwards that are more controlled and not always looking to shoot. Then I think we'll get the best out of Bruno again. But when you've got 3 or 4 players that are like Bruno, and I think Rashford's like a Bruno in terms of an attacker. He gets the ball, he cuts in, he wants to shoot. Garnacho is very, very similar. You suddenly have 3 of them in your team, and I think it becomes yeah, there's no balance. It becomes a problem. But viewers, let us know what you think about Bruno's performance today in the comment sections below. This here says chance to go level with Spurs next weekend, and they don't play either. This is true. They miss a week because of the Carabao Cup final. So a chance to, how many points are we behind them actually? Is it 3?
I think 3 points now, yeah.
I think you
3
guys
points. So yeah, listen, play Fulham at home, win the game, go level on points, put a bit of pressure on them. It's good. I like to see it. I will say that I see a lot of United fans going, I don't want to be in the Champions League because we've got no chance of winning it. We have no idea if we've got a chance of winning it next year. Like when we know what we've got going on at our club, that we could have a new manager, new players, new investment, to not want to be in the Champions League next year, I find it strange. But there we go. I will say this: United fans that used to big argument stick as the stick to beat.
Oh, Big Ange, the Big Ange stick.
The Big Ange stick to beat Ten Hag with. What are you going to say if he ends up finishes above him for top 4? That's a good challenge. I think that I think for me, people would look at it and say, well, the 450 odd million pound that he spent, that he's been at the club longer, he has more experience at the highest level, and there hasn't been any real consistency in our play yet. I think that's what people will say. But equally, as I think Big Ange has done a good job, but I do think the media have overblown it. Remember, the media did a headline in October saying he is the new Sir Alex Ferguson. So there's big British paper said he's the new Sir Alex, and he's fit, and he stopped Spurs being Spursy. Far too premature. I think he means here delusional. Ten Hag playing with Ollie's squad and getting results. Our club structure is broken, and Jim is changing that. Luton is a tough place to play. Thank you, Olu. I appreciate that super chat a lot. D-Town here says, I hate to admit it as a Liverpool fan, but Mainoo is definitely a gem. If I was a Man United fan, I would still get an experienced player in for him and Hojlund, so you don't end up with the Rashford burnout. Yeah, I agree. We still got, And if they're good enough, they'll keep getting better, won't they? If they're not, then as long as we're better. Bruno needs 2 games rest. He's burnt out.
That's never been a problem for Bruno. He can play.
No, he gas his 24. His kilometers are mad, but he's still
the guy
game in, game out.
Energy.
I actually when it comes to Bruno, I agree with everything Najee said. Like I just think he's such a nuanced player.
You think you could do better though? You think you can find a better player in that team,
right? I just think
that's all I'm asking.
I just think with a player that's done what he's done, and I think with the chopping and changes of managers and styles, like Terry said, it's like at some point he may not look like he fits in a team. And I just think at this point, for me, the Bruno argument should just next season, when we have the structure and the people who we trust to come in, if they look at Bruno and they say, you are not the right guy, he's going to go. If there's one thing they have shown, if there's one thing that this new regime has shown so quickly, and this is the one thing all Man United fans were worried about, how quickly are they going to make the changes needed? Well, guess what? That back room, gone. Instantly. They're already talking about the new stadium. So if all these things, all that follow through actually happens, which, I mean, Terry outlined on a show a few weeks ago that the structure that's in place on how he bought the club, it does mean he has the power to do these things because everybody's like, oh, the Glazers this, and they're still going to be in the way.
He has the power. You can tell already. You can tell already they've got the power.
Exactly. So we know he'll move on guys like Bruno or Erik ten Hag or whoever if he's come in with his team and said they're not right. So that's when we make the decision. I think that's when.
I think it's with Bruno though. I think we need to remember that he's been consistent over the last since we signed him. He's got an average of 18 goals or assists throughout in each season. Obviously, with his peak being 30 goals and assists in his second season, but he's bringing it regularly, and I know he's making misplaced passes, and it's so frustrating. In that corner situation we've already spoke about, he does make bad decisions. But when you think over the last 3 seasons, he's created the most chances. So you go, okay, if those chances are put away, then let's just say, for example, Haaland or Hojlund as he is now, would we then be looking at Bruno going, wow, he's amazing. He's just by far the best. He's not only creating the chances, we're taking them, we're scoring all these goals. We're creating chances, he's not taking them. So he's not getting the plaudits he should do for that.
Do you know what it is though, quickly?
He makes a lot of misplaced passes. Part of the reason you make misplaced passes is because you're trying something. But you can see, somebody said a minute ago he's burnt out. I think part of him is because he's covering so many blades of grass on the pitch. And is that a weakness? Or is it a weakness in him because he just feels he's got to get everywhere to not let the team down? Or is it Is it because the team isn't strong enough for each individual position? You know, if you believe in your back four, then you can believe in your two in front, and then you can start to play your own position, sort of thing. But is Bruno trying to cover too much grass, just trying to cover everyone else's mistakes? And it was his mistake, that corner, absolutely.
It very much could be. Charlie here with it. Super Chat says Terry would like Bruno to play higher up, but complains he didn't assist Casemiro in the midfield today. Well, firstly, as I stated, I'd like Bruno to be further up the pitch with a more controlled midfield behind. We don't have that controlled midfield behind, so I understand it's not possible. Secondly, even with that controlled midfield, if Bruno is our captain and he's also a midfielder, if we are being overrun in the midfield, I would still expect him to go, well, I know I'm not meant to be there per se, but I'm going to drop a little bit deeper to plug holes. I don't think... I understand your challenge and I appreciate the super chat a lot, but it doesn't negate what I'm talking about. Sometimes in game, players need to make decisions because they're out there on the pitch. They see the holes, they see the problems, and especially as captain, I would expect them to either move themselves or, like I said, instruct Mainoo. Look, you've got to get 10 yards deeper or 10 yards more to the right. There's a hole there. You need a little bit of that from your leaders on the pitch, in my opinion, Charlie. But thank you for the super chat, Mike G. Look, I want to thank everybody that's tuned in today. We're back tomorrow for a fan channel review in the morning. Of course, a top 6 show in the evening as well. Do us a favor before you leave tonight, though, and hit the like button. Please make sure you're subscribing. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who was tuned in, to us today. My panel as well with Sonshine, Phil, Canadian Cam, Rhino, and Steve. And do you know what? I just realized you were there, bruv, but you didn't unmute at any point, and your face ain't there. And I was just so busy. I'm sorry, my friend. I apologize. Listen, everyone who's tuned in, thank you. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again very, very